All right. I think usually we go around and just say who we are. So I'll start, and if the county folks can follow, and then other members here. I'm Steve Larson, former president of PRO, and I'll be hosting or coordinating today's meeting.
Lenny Berger, owner of Handy Mensch Home Remodeling.
Who else do we have? Tom Burrows. You're on mute.
Oh, I am. Okay, I'm John Burrows with New Leaf Collaborative Architects.
Welcome. Jason Gagan, is that correct?
Gagan, yes, and I'm with Bowers Design Build in McLean.
Right.
Katie
Gagan.
Peters. You out there, Katie?
You're on mute.
Okay.
All right.
How about Kirsten? Want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, I'm Kirsten Munns. I'm the Director of the Permitting and Code Administration Division in Land Development Services for Fairfax County.
Catherine?
Hi, I'm Catherine Lunsford. I'm the Assistant Section Chief of the Zoning Permit Section in Fairfax County.
Wonderful. Brandy?
Hi, everybody. I'm Brandy Mueller. I'm the chief of our Customer and Technical Support Center, which is a long way to say the intake of our permits and site plans.
And Kyle?
Good afternoon. My name is Kyle Kratzer. I am the Building and Fire Building Code Research and Development Liaison.
Wonderful.
And Hellman?
Holman Casper, Fairfax County, Director of Operations for Land Development Services.
Great.
Great.
I know we'll have quite a few jump on, but I think you'll just start rolling, and we'll, as they jump on, we'll just keep
Sure.
going, and this will be recorded. So I will let you begin.
I guess the two things we have on our agenda today is to talk about the changeover to the USBC 2021, and then also the deck permitting process, the quick process of a quick turnaround deck permit in 3 days. So why don't we start with the deck item first, and take it away.
All right, so I'm Brandy Mueller. I'm going to present on the deck topic. In the chat, I've quickly posted the link just as a reminder of where Land Development Services shares our news and information, our LTI announcements, which is where this originally went out in December 1st is where we announced this program. So for 3 months prior to that date, we did a pilot in coordination with Catherine Lunsford's team and Zoning Permits Branch on trying to, and Kyle's team at the time, with fast track residential review and building, of trying to ensure that when a deck permit application comes in, when it's not associated with any kind of environmental restrictions such as floodplain or resource protection areas, that the deck application itself would be reviewed by all necessary agencies. So that would be permit staff, our site tech review team, which evaluates land disturbance, the building review team when there's plans and it's not per detail, and the site permits team or zoning permits team, that it would be reviewed within 3 business days. So we piloted it starting in August, and we're able to successfully meet that target consistently through that time period. So we announced it December 1st, just to kind of set a level of expectation for service for our customers. And we wanted to let this partnership know as well of this opportunity and this commitment that we have committed to be able to make this turnaround time. I do clarify that it's 3 days for review. So that does not mean approved. If there are items found that are issues, those issues will be in the plan room. The applicant will have to address them. And then upon resubmission, we would get that reviewed within the 3 business day timeframe. So we are completing the task when it's with us within 3 business days. And that's the commitment. Again, unless there is resource protection area or floodplain on the property, which kicks in additional site-related requirements that would need to be submitted, which kind of extend those timelines a little bit. But we have that information on our webpage at the link that I provided. If anyone has any questions about how we administer that, or if you have a project that doesn't meet that timeline, feel free to reach out to me directly to let me know, and I can look into it further. But we just wanted to share that new program and the implementation of it.
And that includes typical deck details or plans.
Correct.
Is it only open decks, or are there other exterior structures that apply to that?
No,
Like
it's-
porches and stuff?
Open decks only.
Okay.
Uncovered decks. And it's per county detail or with plans. It doesn't matter which it has. Those all get reviewed within that 3-day period.
Randy, does it include multi-level decks too, or is it just simple one-level decks like the old system had?
Like the old system, yes.
Okay.
Yep, it was to kind of meet that same level of service that you all could expect, pre-electronic submission, and try to get as close to that as possible. We were trying to close that gap where timelines for those more simplified open deck one-level projects had increased to 7 to 10 business days. We were trying to get further down to that couple of day expectation you all had when you could come into the office. And we believe we've achieved that, and we're ready to announce it and just kind of go out and share that with all of our industry partners through forums like this.
And that does not include time to have the permit accepted, right? So that would be the 3-day review is in addition to the day or two it takes?
Incorrect. That 3-day is the full life cycle.
is.
As long as you have completed your part in plus, and you got that confirmation at the top that submission is completed, successful submission, from the date we receive it to the date that you get each review completed, including our preliminary permit review, that's all within 3 days.
Super.
So that's my big announcement.
Anyone, I guess, have any questions on that process? Well, thank you very much.
Steve, could you just say super again?
Super. There you go. You're welcome, Bill.
We do think
No, I
that
think
it's
it's-
a
I
huge
think it's
step
great.
forward on this.
Yeah,
On our part, I think.
great that processes still keeps getting streamlined. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Shall we move on to the next topic, which is maybe a little more encompassing, broad, and talk about the changeover from the 2018 to the 2021 IRC USBC? Whoever is leading that.
I believe that's me. Sure. On January 18th, the 2021 Virginia Uniform Statewide Building Code was adopted as allowed by which, and I just want to talk about kind of order of precedence because it's kind of important here. We are in the 2021 code cycle. If you submit an application today, it is under the 2021 code cycle. The 1-year grace period is a section 103.2 of the 2021 Virginia Uniform Statewide Building Code that allows you to apply under the previous code cycle. So when you apply, you have to make sure that you are requesting a 2018 permit or a 2018 code edition instead of the 2021 code edition for that reason, because if you were to apply today, it would be under the 2021 code cycle. And if you wish to have the review be under the 2018, that is something that you have to make sure is in your request.
And can I ask a quick question on that? Is that just on
Sure.
the cover sheet then of our plan set, or does it need to actually be part of our application, like within the drawings or in the summary of the project?
I think that's a Brandy question. Brandy, can you answer that? That should be under the submission, correct?
Can you repeat the question?
I think the
Within
question,
that submission.
sorry, I think the question is as you're filling out the plus application, do you have to acknowledge whether or not you're in the 2018, whether your plan was designed under the 2018 or the 2021 code? And I think the answer is yes. I think there is a question directly in plus, and you have to identify. And if you identify it in plus as a 2021 because you didn't change it, and it's defaulted to that, but you're actually in the 2018, you're gonna wind up with comments, and we know how that works. So they definitely need to be consistent.
Thank you.
Makes sense, yes.
And another question that I typically get when talking about the, of course, a new code cycle is, what are the biggest changes? And I believe if we haven't sent out a letter yet, there's one coming out highlighting some of the largest changes. But on the residential side, your biggest changes are going to be energy. They're going to be energy and electrical are going to be the biggest changes, especially for Fairfax County. There's a lot of new electrical requirements that will have an impact on cost of construction, as well as ceiling insulation is going up to R60 for our region, which is a pretty significant change. R60 is equivalent to about 20 inches of insulation in attics. There are some exceptions or some other methods that you can utilize. In fact, the energy code is moving towards more of a performance-based instead of prescriptive-based. But the big prescriptive change is that you're going to R60. On the as well as there's some significant electrical changes energy wise as well, and that should be in the letter that's probably coming out possibly later this week, if not next week. I'm not sure exactly when that article is coming out. On the commercial side, there's obviously that's a much broader topic, but accessibility and energy as well are probably the biggest changes. Accessibility being that we went to the 2017 version of the ANSI A117.1, which has a pretty significant impact to design, as well as the energy the energy requirements have increased for commercial as well.
Kyle, I got a heads up from a couple designers and an engineer that are there changes to the snow load tables codes now? Is that something that has changed?
Nothing that would affect Fairfax County.
Nothing that would. Okay.
One of the big changes when it came to energy, which is why I didn't necessarily include it in here, is in previous code editions, all of Virginia was considered a 4A climate zone. Those maps have since changed to there's probably 6 counties on the lower end of the state that now are in a 5A climate zone. And there's, I think, like 20 some jurisdictions on the southern end of the state, right along the North Carolina border, that are going to 3A. But the majority of the state is still staying 4A. There have been some changes to some of the seismic requirements, but again, Fairfax County is not a part of, has no seismic concerns presently.
Good to hear. Any other highlights to share that are?
For 2021, I don't believe we have. I don't really have anything that is a kind of a key point that I could hit on right now. Like I said, there's some nuanced changes to the building code, and there's a couple small changes to some of the trades. But as far as like big kind of design altering changes, I don't think we have anything that's that significant. Yeah.
Okay.
But if you have any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them, whether it be here or email, however.
Great. Anyone of our members have any questions about that, or? Okay. That is all those are the only topics we have today. From our members, we do this every quarter, or we do this once in a while, poll our members to see are there topics you'd like to hear in the future. This would be a good time to throw that out there now, from our members and see if anyone has any things they'd like to see added to this, the agenda for our next meeting.
I had a question about the energy code. Is there a change to the wall code for energy?
There is not for this code cycle. I think going to the R60 was part of the compromise was keeping the walls at R15. I'm assuming you're referring to residential. I apologize.
Yes,
but yeah,
yes.
for residential, it's staying at R15 for the 2021 code cycle.
Okay, okay.
And floors will stay at R19.
Right, thank you.
Kyle, not that I want to lengthen or prolong anything too much, but are there any real just highlights on the electrical side? You said there were some major ones there too. Is it, additional types of breakers, arc faults everywhere?
So yes, basements now, whether finished or unfinished, are going to be required to be on a ground fault circuit. Homes or residences, even in the event of a panel replacement, are now going to be required to have a panel disconnect on the exterior of the structure for emergency services. Overcurrent protection, as far as proper terminology, excuse me, the surge protectors. Surge protectors are required at the panel now for the house. Even previously in previous code editions, circuits that were over the 20 amps were exempt from ground fault protection. They are no longer exempt. So if they're within 6 feet of a water source or the sink basin, they're now required to be ground fault protected. So if you have your oven or your dryer within 6 feet of the sink, it's now required to be on a ground fault circuit. There are, as far as an energy requirement to the electrical code goes, except for hallways, bathrooms, and circuits, lights that are utilized for security purposes, they're required to be on a dimmer or occupant sensor, or be a device that is capable of the lighting controls. Those are now required under the energy code. I think those highlight the largest of the changes. I'm trying to remember all the ones that we ended up putting in the letter.
Can I ask a quick question on your the panel disconnect? There's been a discussion in our office about whether panel disconnects need to be visible to the street for emergency services. Is that going to be a requirement that we have to be visible out to the front if the electric panel's in the back of the house?
It is not required to be visible to the street. It does have to be in a non-conspicuous location, but it does not have to be visible to the street.
Thank you.
So is that any panel upgrade requires an external disconnect now?
Give me 1 second. I will give you the exact code language. I prefer to give the exact code language because that way, if there's any confusion, we're both confused.
No problem. Yeah, that's gonna be a nice cost increase for customers.
Yes, there was a lot of there were a lot of items that had in previous editions been held out of the NEC that are now in the NEC, or that have now made their way into the VRC. Okay, so it's E3601.8. In fact, I can maybe share my screen here. Which states that for 1 and 2 dwelling units, all service conductors shall terminate, and disconnecting means having a short circuit current rating equal to or greater than the available fault current installed in a readily accessible outdoor location. If more than one disconnect is provided, they shall be grouped, and each disconnect shall be one of the following: a service disconnect that's marked emergency disconnect, service disconnect, or which is probably going to be your most common arrangement, because currently that disconnect is not required to be service rated, but it's going to be difficult to find that equipment that's not service rated, just what's on the market right now. If it's not, it has to be labeled emergency disconnect, meter disconnect, not service equipment. And then when it comes to disconnects for like solar, it'll say emergency disconnect, not service equipment. So there's some situations where the labeling will be very important for emergency services when they come out to the homes.
What was the section again?
It's E3601.8.
Okay.
Anyone else with questions for anyone on county staff?
So the letter you guys are putting out, is that going to have not necessarily like a full list of every change, but you're identifying all the major changes?
Yes. So the residential code had a total of like 600 changes in the last code edition. Now, even the code update training that state staff or state code enforcement receives only highlighted, say, 115 of them. We highlighted, I think, maybe the top 15 changes, the ones that have affected, and that was for residential and commercial. So 15 for residential, 15 for commercial. And that really highlighted the ones that are going to affect Fairfax County the most. It wasn't necessarily every single change, because there were some changes like to coastal flooding. That's thankfully not a problem that we deal with too much here. So there weren't a lot of changes that affected us. And as I mentioned, the energy change, we're staying the same. So the changes here, besides like the increase in attic insulation, were minimal.
And you said this is in a letter, and where do you obtain the letter?
Oh, it's so great that you asked that question. I'm all set to provide that answer. I'm Bill Hicks. I'm the Director of Land Development Services. I did pull up the letter we're about to send out. It's a letter to industry. And I think Kyle is right. It's probably somewhere on the order of about 20 or 30 different things that we felt like were the highest of concern for our area, but it doesn't cover the 1,000 pages of code that's out there. If you would like to subscribe to our letters to industry, which we absolutely want to do, I'm going to share my screen. And I'll put this link in the chat if that's helpful. But you can go right to our webpage and enter in your email address, and that's all you have to do. And we do send out probably, on average, it's about one a week. It'll tell you when the offices are closed, when something changes in Plus, it'll tell you whatever. But all you have to do is fill out your email, hit submit, and then you're on this listserv. I will take this and put it in the chat so you can do that. It's also at the end of my email signature, and hopefully at the end of almost any LDS employee's signature, if you ever need to find it.
Thanks, Bill. That's great.
I can also give you a few more tips, I guess, if you're trying to identify what new codes are and what amendments are. Fairfax County has a link to the codes and standards on our webpage. And when you pull that up, it'll take you to ICC's website. And as I was quoting, I'll share my screen again. As I was quoting those new code sections, anything that is in blue is new to, let's see, where does it show it here? So anything that, oops, sorry.
I was gonna say, we're not seeing your screen if you're sharing it. I don't know if you were doing that, Kyle.
Well,
there you go. All right.
There we go. So our codes and standards webpage should take you to whichever code you're looking for. And when you are going through the website, anything that is shown in blue text is a new change from the previous edition. So in this case, the separate enclosures, the panel boards, these are all new to the 2021 code cycle. For red, it is a Virginia amendment. So those are those are how you can identify where the code came from, when it became when it came into the code. Going to this is the page that section should take you to. You can also go to the previous code edition. In this case, if you wanted to go back to the 2018 because you were doing a project in 2018, or even back to the 2015 and I believe 2012 for Virginia, just to try to confirm a previous project, or when you're trying to identify a certain code section came into the code, you can utilize the previous editions. And again, if you have any questions on how to navigate the ICC website, or questions of where you might find something in the code books, I'd be happy to answer any questions through email or through phone calls.
Can you post that link in the chat, please?
Sure. Doesn't look like it worked.
Looks like it was just a piece of it, not the whole.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Let me go to our codes and standards page and see. So that's a link to our codes and standards page. It's still currently showing the 2018. That should be updated in the probably in the next week or so with links to the 2021 code edition, but the links will still take you to the correct page.
Very helpful. That's wonderful. Thank you. A little late night reading for our electrician members.
Does the external disconnect that only requires, that's only if there's a panel upgrade or new service? It's not if you do a sub panel.
Correct. Yeah, that would be a change of the service panel.
Debbie, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I was just gonna say, I copied all the links as well. Also, when we
Super.
send out this recording, we always try to include the links that were shared with us during these discussions.
Great.
I think you had asked about future topics possibly. Anybody had anything they wanted to add about that? I'd like to hear, or you can always send them to me and we'll get them out to Fairfax and we can decide what is best for the next round. Anyone else have anything else for now?
No, we look forward to getting the letter and the details, so we make the inspectors nice and happy when they show up.
All right. Well, thank you for facilitating today, Steve, and Ted's absence. We
Yeah.
appreciate that. And I know he does as well. Again, they're always accessible if you have any questions for their team. So feel free to reach out to them and you all enjoy the rest of your day.
Many thanks, folks. Thank you.
Thanks.
Take your spouses out to dinner tonight.
Thank you, guys. Very good to hear.
Thanks.
Good advice. Anyway.
Stop recording. There we go.